Hello, this is Robert Hunt, Superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools, and today we are joined by Mr. Daugherty, who is the Director of Technology and Innovation at Chagrin Falls Schools. Mr. Daugherty, how are you doing today?
Good. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking the time away and taking some time to chat.
Excited to do this.
So you were kind of at the forefront of creating our virtual learning plan. And I think what we've learned is our district was out ahead of most districts, and we're now seeing versions of that plan kind of pop up around Ohio and even around the country.
Mhm.
Talk about the process that we went through in putting this together, the planning process when you started, and how it evolved and developed.
Sure. So I think really all this goes back to the administrative team and the leadership there. We began looking at the potential impact of this virus. Felt like probably a week or two before everybody else did. I know we began discussing it in cabinet and talking about how this might affect the district. We talked about some different ways that we might be able to prep teachers going forward. And I think we began constructing our plan a good 2 weeks ahead of time. So as we rolled into the governor's announcement and all the things that came up, we were ready to go. We had taken that plan, myself and Nancy Kevrin, who is our kind of our tech integrationist. We had developed the outline for the plan. We then met with cabinet as well as principals and teachers to kind of work out a schedule that made sense for everybody, to make sure that our expectations were where they should be. So it was a really good job, kind of a collaborative plan, kind of going through all of that. So when the governor made its announcement to close school, or at least to move everything online, we were ready to go.
So, we're all going to have memories of COVID-19, right? Things that happened along the way. And I have this distinct memory of bringing you and Nancy in my office and saying, hey, we need to be ready to go. You need to have a plan together. So I always wondered, is when you went back to your office, what was the conversation like the first, minute or two after I kind of dropped that bomb that we needed to be ready to go and sooner rather than later?
So the initial conversation was this was going to be a very, very big undertaking. Nancy and I spoke. So you brought me in. We brought us in late on a Thursday afternoon. So we both kind of went back and said, okay, let's start tackling this tomorrow. I think it was 3 o'clock. So we didn't want to start tackling it right on the spot. But both of us recognized very quickly that this was not going to be, a 1 hour meeting and knock out this plan. And then we began to think of all the different areas and ways that this would impact teaching and learning. Everything from just simply setting up a schedule to how teachers were going to communicate, how we were going to make sure that kids had internet access and had a device at home that they could work with. And it very, very quickly blossomed from this initial what can we do to, oh my gosh, there are so many different considerations we have to think about. But it was a fun challenge. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nancy did a tremendous job as we kind of went through all this. Same thing with the principals. It was as I mentioned before, it was such a good collaboration, but it very quickly became a huge. I think our plan ended up at 30 pages at this point.
So I remember when I talked to the staff, we talked about, a plan in writing is only, a nice document. It's really the implementation that matters.
Mhm.
With it. And, I think, looking at, how we've evolved and developed, the implementation has been very, very good. Um, my belief is that could not have happened had we not done some things in advance over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So talk about the things that, the types of things we did as a district that kind of put us in a position that we could share a plan with staff on a Friday and kind of launch into this environment on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. I think that a lot of the stuff we've done over the last 5 to 7 years put us in this position. Starting with just going one-to-one and going with Google and the whole collaborative infrastructure that they have built into their products. But I think you couple giving all those devices to students, you couple that with the training we did with the Google certification. So having our staff members, all of our certified staff members get Google certified, and then actually going through that process again this past school year was tremendous. We knew that they had the skill set and they knew of the tools they needed to move online. A lot of the things that we're doing now with Google Classroom and posting things online and sharing assignments, we've been doing that all along. The only difference is the kids have been in their seats physically in the building. Now we've just moved that online, but a lot of the technology we're using is the same stuff we've been doing inside Sugar and Falls for the past 5, 6, 7 years. So I think we did a really good job kind of laying the groundwork, and all that certification, all that training really just lent itself to making this transition so much easier, I think, for us than maybe for others.
So talk about that virtual launch, when we kind of, put the date out there that everyone will be kind of online by this day. What were some of the problems initially that you were having to deal with out of your office?
Initial problems really revolved around camera and microphone. So one of the things that we learned very quickly is, especially with some of the younger students, they weren't needing to use their camera or their microphone in class. So they got home, they needed to do their first Hangout, Meet, or Zoom meeting. And we found out quickly that their camera wasn't working or their microphone didn't work. Whether it got damaged along the way, whether there was a short in the wire, for whatever reason. So there's a big, not big, it was 30, 40 kids throughout the district that needed replacement Chromebooks. So we had to very quickly figure out a way to diagnose their issues, whether it was something we could fix remotely or something that we needed to swap. And then if we did need to swap it, how were we going to do that? Luckily for us, we have a phenomenal transportation department. So we got swap Chromebooks ready. We had parents fill out a form, and then transportation came, dropped off the replacement Chromebook, picked up the Chromebook that needed to be repaired, and we've kind of made that kind of our process now. Those Chromebooks come back in, we fix those machines, we clean them up, make sure they're ready to go, and then those can go out to other families. So that was the biggest one, was just working through this microphone and camera issues. And I think the other thing too was helping parents support their kids at home. This has been a big transition for a lot of folks. So learning how to support your student in a Zoom meeting or in a Hangout, or just getting them connected and working through that. We've had a lot of support with home internet connections, troubleshooting various types of home problems. So those two things were kind of the biggest draws in our time initially.
So what has surprised you most about this, and kind of how's it going from your perspective?
Surprised me most, I'd say honestly how well we were able to. I know we talked about how prepped and how ready the district was to do this, but I'm still floored by how well the teachers have executed this plan. I'm seeing teachers record lessons and videos and post them and interact with their kids on a regular basis. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I know that we have a ton of teachers who are meeting with their kids on a regular basis. I think back to some of the things I've seen Lisa Dugach post are just incredible. The way she's really trying to reach out to her kids and stay constant with them, stay engaged. I think that has been really great. All in all, I think it's gone really, really well for the district. I think I'm impressed by what our teachers have shown us.
So we kind of created the plan, we launched the plan, and then we did a survey, I don't know, 8 or 9 days in. And it seems to me that this is an evolution. It's like, we didn't arrive on the day and this is how it's going to be. We continue to, grow and make changes. What changes or modifications have you seen teachers slowly making as we've gotten some feedback? And maybe if you were to think out, where do you see this going in the next couple of weeks?
I've seen a lot of teachers who are really valuing, we saw from that survey that students really value that interaction with teachers and with their peers. So I've seen more and more teachers look at how to do the virtual face-to-face meetings. I think we're seeing a rise in that. I know we just did a professional development day yesterday, and we had 62 teachers attend a training on how to do Zoom, which is one of the products we're using for those face-to-face meetings. So I think I'm seeing a lot more of those happen, again, based on those survey results. I think you're also seeing teachers adjust the volume of work based on, initial expectations. I think originally we were trying to figure out exactly how much work was good to assign, how much was not. And I think we've seen kind of an adjustment of that over the past few weeks. I think going forward, honestly, I think that we've seen as a district that virtual learning works and that we can do this. I think there's always been that stigma that, if the kids aren't in their seat directly, that they're not going to be engaged and they're not going to be learning. I think that we're seeing that's not the case. So I could see as we go forward, I could see more opportunities for teachers to offer these kind of learning environments to our kids at Chagrin.
So I'd imagine you're pretty familiar with kind of solving problems remotely, but this is a little bit different. Just talk about it personally for you. You know, not maybe going in every single day and trying to coordinate schedules at home. Kind of how has this been for you personally?
It's been different. Yeah, solving problems, technical problems, is easy, but here at home, I have three kids who are also in this virtual learning environment. So for me, learning how to work and still be able to support them with my wife has been definitely been different. They're three different ages, so the volume of work and the expectations are completely different on all three of them, and it's been a challenge. It's been I don't know, the personal problems are much tougher than the logical, technical ones to solve. Technical problems are easy. But it's been good. My kids are learning. I think they're enjoying the time off. I know they all miss their friends and the social interaction, but we've had a ton of family time together, which has been a positive. So as challenging as it is to help them in this environment, there have been some positives as well.
Okay. So you touched on this already, but maybe add to it a little bit. How do you hope, or how do you foresee this experience that we've been through impacting teaching and learning long term for our school district? Fast forward into next year when people are back, what type of changes do you foresee kind of coming out of or manifesting from this experience?
So one, I know that we've been doing a lot with flexible learning. We've been going down a whole process with that this year. So I think we're going to see some more opportunities for that going forward. Again, I think teachers are really understanding that the whole audio, video, students not in their seats environment can work. So I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see too, especially at the younger levels, I think we're going to see teachers who decide to use audio and video more in their classroom. We've done a lot with Flipgrid during this time, and I think that's been one of those technologies where teachers are aware of it, but they haven't found a use for it yet. And now that we're in this environment, they're using it more and more. So I could definitely see us having more, multimedia, audio, video type assignments for students, interactions with kids. I think teachers are really starting to see the power of audio, video kind of going forward. So I could see a ton of that. Same thing with students. I would not be surprised if we saw more projects from students next year that are submitted using their camera and their microphone and kind of this new kind of way of doing things.
Okay. So we had you mentioned a PD session yesterday, and I know you talked about Zoom, and there were a variety of other options that teachers could sit in. How do kind of these solutions arrive to, to a point where you make a decision, yeah, this makes sense to at least share with our staff? I mean, talk about that a little bit, because there's so much out there you could be using.
Sure. So honestly, usually what happens is myself and Nancy, the tech integrationist, kind of go through kind of the list of options that are available to us. If we're looking for a product for, again, video conferencing or add-ons to Google, et cetera, we kind of go through what's out there and pare it down. And once we've got that pared down, if we find a couple solutions that we're interested in using, we typically take those out to the tech advocate group. So we have teachers in each building called tech advocates. Their role is to kind of be, my eyes and ears in the classroom. They let us know what's working, what's not working, what tech problems they're seeing on a regular basis. So if we find something that we feel is something we want to consider, typically we'll throw it out to them and get their feedback. Also, from our side, we look at the student data privacy concerns to make sure that whatever app or extension or thing that we're looking at is handling our data with care, and they're doing everything that they need to do to make sure the app is following all the rules and procedures. And then once we find one that we're comfortable with and we're ready to go, that's when we begin to roll it out, usually to a pilot group of teachers. 15, 20% of the district, let them try it out so we have a better idea of what's working and what's not working. So there are oftentimes things that seem obvious to Nancy and I because we live in this world, but then when we roll it out to staff, there are little tweaks and things that they need to know about or that they're not aware of. And then once we've gotten their feedback, that's when we kind of roll it out to everybody as well. In the current model, in the COVID-19 era, we kind of fast track that. and didn't involve a lot of the tech advocates. The few extensions and things that we've added have been things that Nancy and I have researched on our own, kind of given the thumbs up to and gone forward with. But typically on a regular school year, we would have a little bit longer of a rollout process.
So we talked a lot about the kind of the positives that will come out of this experience. What are some of the negatives that you see kind of analyzing this experience for our kids in this environment?
So again, I think of my own kids, it's that lack of true social interaction with their friends and not being able to see anybody. I think that this works great. Sometimes I don't know if this is a all the time solution. You know what I mean? I think there still needs to be that face-to-face interaction with the teacher, with their peers. Again, as they get older, even college age, this might be a little bit more, efficient. But I think for our kids, there's still that social emotional piece that we have to touch on. So that I think is the biggest negative that comes to mind. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Daugherty, I want to commend you, your staff. It's been a tremendous amount of work over the last couple of weeks getting to where we're at today, and I appreciate the attitude and direction you're taking the department and this idea of we continuously improve in our school district. And a lot of the success is credited to you and your department. So thanks very much for taking the time today.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Again, as we've said this whole time, this was such a team effort, a collaborative effort, but thank you.
All right. Have a great day.